To become a 6-time women's boxing world champion, it takes more than just a quick right punch. You need to figure out how to learn from the loss and how to find the right people to support you. Listen to episode 25 of the WalkyTalkyPodcast to learn from Jeannine how to become a hometown girl far away from home. WalkyTalkyPodcast, first episode of 2025. I have a new guest, exciting guest, which is Jeannine. Is that the correct pronunciation?
Yes, it is.
Jeannine. Jeannine, do you want to quick introduce yourself? Because you know yourself better than I do at the moment. I will try to change it in the next hour, but who are you?
Wow, my name is Jeannine Garside, and I'm best known for being 6-time featherweight, well, actually also super bantamweight champion of the world.
In what? In?
Professional boxing.
Boxing.
Yes.
That's exciting. Like how long is that ago? Like when did you?
So my last fight was in 2010. So it's been a while. I've since retired, and I'm also an inductee of the International Women's Boxing Hall of Fame, and that was exciting too.
Yeah.
I was inducted alongside Layla Ali, which made it super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I found out that we had more in common than I thought.
Yeah. Let's jump into your journey of being a female boxer, because it's, I think, still totally under the radar for a lot of people. So how do you become a boxer, and how do you approach boxing as a young girl? How was it for you?
I grew up here in the Cowichan Valley, and Duncan is kind of a bit of a tough town, I guess, and every small town has that, I think. And for me, I was always known for being athletic and for being tough. I didn't really understand it, but I definitely didn't mind living up to it.
Yeah.
So people that know me growing up probably aren't surprised, but somebody who walked up and just saw me might be surprised to find out that I have a history as a professional boxer, and a successful one too.
Yeah.
So always being athletic and always loving a challenge. I walked past a sign, and at that time it was a promotion for tough man competition, and there was a women's division. So my sister's pretty tough as well.
How old were you?
I was just out of high school.
Yeah.
So I was 18 years old.
So until 18, you never...
I never did.
Never
no.
touched a
But
boxing glove.
I might have had a few scraps.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't afraid, you know.
Yeah.
And and I had a reputation for being tough then that I felt like I had to live up to. And anybody that's a fighter at heart understands what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When I say that, and it's just something that I've carried with me my whole life. And the interesting thing is, once I started getting involved in boxing, and as an amateur boxer, the need to prove myself outside of the sport dissolved. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for me to explain when I'm coming up now and coaching other kids. How do you benefit by putting your kids in boxing when they're getting in trouble fighting at school?
Right.
And all I know is from my own experiences is that I no longer needed to prove myself, and I seem to escape needing to do any kind of,
So you kind of take it away from the outside and doing it in a proper setting.
And all of a sudden, what used to get me in trouble is now getting me praise. you know, it's interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway, after the Tough Man contest, I looked at the sign and I talked to my sister. It was a $1,000 prize, which I thought, hey, I could use that, and I could do it. I think I could win, because I believe I was tough and I had what it takes. And I thought, but some of these people might have some training, some kind of experience that I don't have. So maybe I should look into it. And there was a boxing club. It was a ring sports. And at that time, for women, I think kickboxing was more popular. This was like 1996. And so there was some action there for women in kickboxing. And so it was just, the place was a ring sports. It was kickboxing, it was boxing, it was everything all in one. I walked in there, and almost could say the rest is history, but Rick Atkinson, Rick Atkinson, who was the head coach there, immediately noticed that I had potential.
Yeah.
And he steered me away from the tough man idea and got me involved in just training. He kept me in the gym training for 1 full year, and then we pursued an amateur career. And I think because of that, I had an excellent foundation. I always credit him for that. Like in my athletic career, foundation can mean a lot in anything, right? It almost means everything.
Yeah.
So I really, I'm grateful for him and my development for that. And so he even hosted a few amateur cards. And actually, I think my first fight was in my hometown of Duncan, BC, and it was super entertaining. They had the curtains.
How old were you when you had your first fight?
So I was 18, I think, 18. Yeah. I'm 19, because I did start I started at 18 training, spent a year in the gym. So in 97, might have been 98, because it was really rapid. Once I hit the scene, I went to the nationals with only 5 fights, and you're supposed to have 10 fights. Maybe I had 7 by the time I actually competed. Mm-hmm. And like, I was super excited because I didn't know that women were able to do this. And I was just like, if women can do this, this is what I want to do. And I had no doubts in my mind about it. Yeah. I fell in love with the boxing side of things. I learned kickboxing. I learned other forms, like we did some karate and things like that. But my heart was into boxing. I was super passionate about it. And so, he got me involved in amateur boxing, and we went to the nationals just looking for some experience, not putting the pressure on me to actually win, which I think helps, because
having the experience,
I have a problem with making unrealistic expectations of myself, and then if I don't achieve it, I really punish myself. So I think he was aware of that about my personality, and so he didn't put the expectation on me to win. So I was just going there with a light heart and good spirit, and very passionate about what I was doing, and focused. And my first fight was against who ended up becoming, the sister of who ended up becoming my head coach when I turned professional.
Okay.
So it's kind of neat. It was a very hard fought battle against this vibrant woman, and her name was Donna Canty, and her coach is currently my coach, Josh Canty. So I destroyed her in the first round. The second round was a little closer for her. The third round, she poured her heart out and tried to catch up, and almost did. It was I won by 1 point. She knocked my headgear off my head and then continued to hit me because I stopped, and I learned the hard way, you never turn your back on your opponent, not ever, because I turned to look at the headgear, and then she gave me another couple of lumps in the back of the head with no gear on, but whatever. And so I remember, it was just full out, nonstop, and it was a very high scoring fight. I can't remember the exact score, but I could barely, my coach said, okay, go congratulate your corner and go say something, because you got to do that out of respect. And I could barely, after the fight was over, walk across the ring to go say something to her. I was so completely exhausted. So it was a tough fight. Every fight is tough in a different way. Yeah. But she was really upset that she lost, and lost to what I was, a nobody.
Exactly.
Because
you just jumped into
I had no experience, and I just jumped into the nationals. And another thing, I feel like in Canada, coming from out west, I feel like a lot of these tournaments take place in Ontario and Quebec, and just kind of like the government, there's more people there, there's more numbers, there's more, they kind of have a vision of who's going to be on the national team already. Yeah. And I came out of nowhere from the West Coast and kind of disrupted things a little bit, I think. Yeah. And anyway, so it was pretty upsetting for both of them that I had defeated them. And they were ready to take off and leave town. Yeah. But Josh said, no, let's stick around, because this Danielle Bouchard, who's like a well-known athlete from Quebec, is gonna beat that crap out of Jeannine Garside, and let's just stick around and watch that happen.
Yeah.
So they did, but it again didn't go the way they thought it would go. So I had this fight with Danielle Bouchard, and I watched her, man, and like I said, I was green. I'm watching her skip rope, and she's phenomenal, and she has so much experience. She had a lot of fights. She had these fancy boots. I was just watching her feet as she was skipping rope, but I refused to be intimidated, you know?
Yeah.
And I just thought,
Extra motivation.
yeah, just like, what am I going to do to beat this woman? Like, and I watched her fight too, and she had a very closed guard, so she, it was hard to score points on her.
Yeah.
And so I knew that was going to be the case. So the pace of that fight was completely different than the first fight.
More tactical?
It was much more tactical. And even with the little experience I had, I still, like, this is what I love about boxing. It's like a chess match. I observed her and I created a plan.
Yeah.
And when you feel your plan, as you execute it, start being successful.
Yeah.
So like I noticed like she would open up only at certain times when she was throwing punches.
Yeah.
So I had to block her and counter immediately. And I was southpaw, so counter punching. And then it got to the point where she didn't want to initiate, but like you're going back and forth, and it was a really low scoring fight. There was like 5-3, I think, but I won. And I won the national championships.
In your first
that was my first time going to the nationals with very little experience. And I ended up defeating Danielle Bouchard and becoming national champion. And it was incredible. It was such a great experience. Also, since I didn't expect it and I didn't put the pressure on myself to achieve that, and nobody knew who I was. I kind of came out of nowhere. And so now I had a lot of people's attention, especially after defeating Danielle. And maybe some people thought that I hadn't earned it, but
why is that?
Because I didn't have the experience and maybe it was a fluke or something, but I knew it wasn't a fluke.
How much time did you spend between starting boxing and winning nationals? How much time was in?
That's a good question. Well, like I said, I had that 1 year of training. Yeah. In the gym before I even came out, and my career kind of follows the similar thread. So I had a great career as an amateur boxer. It was very important to me. Yeah. I think I would say it was probably within the same year. Right.
So in 1 year you catched up where all the other athletes probably took years to try to become national champions. Yeah. Right? So that's kind of like.
And they probably, someone like Danielle, like she already was on the national team. Yeah. She probably already sealed the deal for her spot as the champion, like in her mind in that. So I understand that now because I've then got onto the national team, and I was in a position as well where I felt like I belonged there, and it was my place. Yeah. You go to box offs, but you get to know who's on top, right? You get to know who's on top. Yeah. And so I understand how me coming in like that. So what happened was I ended up kind of not being taken on the next big trip for the national team as an A team member. I was sort of put on the B team, even though I was the champion. Yeah. So I had to deal with that, and I was upset.
How did you deal with that?
But just as people say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Right. And I knew and this is, if I were to advise any other athlete, like there are going to be obstacles, even if you're the champion. Yeah. You have to, and people seem to want to keep stepping on your head and keeping you underwater. Yeah. You have to fight to get to the top.
You are the target, right?
Yeah. So it's like, okay. Yeah. I'm not going to this tournament. Rumors were being spread of other excuses and reasons why, but I think that's the reason why. And I understand that. I don't hold contempt, but I had to prove myself. And when I get the opportunity, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Yeah. And that's exactly what I did do. And so there was a Canada versus USA, and you know how competitive this country is with the United States when it comes to sports or anything. So it was Canada versus USA. I got to go. Of course, I made a stink about not going last time. So, okay, we're going to set her this time. And I destroyed all my opponents, and I won Best Female Fighter of the tournament. So I used those things to fuel me to be better. That's what you got to do,
Yeah.
And so I continued to be successful on the national team. I went to the first ever Women's World Championships, and I had personal things going on, if I were to reflect honestly, that might have interfered with my performance, but I don't like to make any excuses. And I ended up losing to the same girl that I also lost to in the other great tournament called the Phoenix Cup that was taking place in Finland. I'm not sure if it still does, but it was one of the first, because I'm a bit of a pioneer of the sport of women's boxing when it comes to the amateurs. It was important to me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go to the Olympics.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this was in Scranton, Pennsylvania, the first ever Women's World Championships. I believe it was in 2001. It was when it
in
was
2001 were the first female boxing.
It was the first ever World Championships, and so it was going to set the precedence. It was going to be a springboard to being in the Olympics, because we needed to have a certain amount of countries involved. I felt like we had the numbers at that time, and what I was told, and that I believed, is women's boxing wasn't going to hit the Olympics until 2012. And that timeline just didn't work for me. 2008 was going to be what I needed in order to stick it out in the amateurs. So I did try to stick around with the amateurs for a bit longer. But like I said, I had a few personal things happen in my life, and I ended up shifting gears. And I decided to turn pro.
Before we go to your pro career, what makes, like, I have to say my personal experience with boxing is changed a lot in my life. Like when I was young, I was like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Like they hitting each other, they're hurting each other. Like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Then you get an approach, you watch movies, you watch fights, and you're like, it's
Rocky.
It's kind of like interesting because there's more in it. Like they just don't hit each other.
I'd say there's magic in boxing. That's what I say.
And then like
people love it. The movies, the passion, it's just.
So, but what is it for you? Like it's not about hitting someone, right?
It's a one-on-one. It's about challenging yourself to defeat another human being. It's a battle. It's survival, and I am personally willing to lay my life on the line when I go out into the ring to fight. That's the spirit I have as a warrior. I feel inside me a warrior spirit, and when I get in the ring, that's what I'm sacrificing. And it's a one-on-one challenge between you and another human being who has trained physically and mentally to become the best they can be. You know what I mean? And so it's
with
ultimate.
Knowing that you don't kill each other.
Right. And there's rules in place, and but you're almost willing to go there.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to Holyfield talk about when Mike Tyson bit his ear. And he said, if they would have let me back out for another round, and I was going for his nose, it's like it's on a pain scale. If that's okay, then I'll go there. If that's okay, then I'll go there. So there's a reason why these rules in history have been put in place, and it's to control things, And I do like to have that control. That makes part of it. Again, like playing a game of chess, each piece there are rules, and there are certain things you can and cannot do.
Yeah.
And it makes it fair play,
Yeah.
So
knowing like now a bit more of it, it's also like it's kind of like a dance, huh?
It absolutely is a dance. And if we're talking about the athletic side of things,
let's do it.
There are two sports, and if you were to consider dancing a sport, that engage a human being on a level that's just because you're with another human being.
Yeah.
And you're going through these motions together, and emotions together, and so dancing, it ignites a certain part of you with your partner, kind of similar to what boxing does.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish I had been a dancer, not a boxer. But there is a dance going on in that ring.
It's never too late, Jeannine.
I describe that to people because moving together, and
Yeah.
you need to stay within a certain range of each other. Sometimes you see early on in amateur boxing, or when people are developing, they go, come in and they have a little bit of a scrabble, and then
Yeah.
they spread way far, run way far away from each other. And they come in and then they have a little bit of a fight, and then they go way far away from each other. It's just like, eventually you want to get a little bit closer and stay within that range and work together. Even though you're fighting, you're kind of, and it's, it becomes an even more competitive and elite dance, and it's
How much time do
great
you
to
spend?
watch. People love watching boxing.
How much time do you spend in your peak of your career, like training?
When people ask me that, I would
staying in
often
shape.
say that the
Because you
training
need to be in shape.
is like, when I sign a contract for a fight, I, at that point, will eat, sleep, and breathe boxing and fighting and focus on that individual in particular until the end of that fight. Like, I am obsessed with it.
Yeah.
There is no break from what I'm going through to win. There's no break from training, really. But the physical, actual training would usually be somewhere 2 to 3 times a day for 5 to 6 days a week, and it's an interval style training, so it varies a little bit, but sparring, and focus mitts and sparring with different people around, and then you're doing the conditioning work and road work.
Yeah.
So it's a heavy amount of conditioning, and there's a fine line. You don't want to get an injury. So and you don't want to overtrain. I've heard of people doing that, and you got to depend on, like, for me, the key is to have a good team of people around you and trust them and believe in them and follow them. And like the old saying, when you say jump, I say how high, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
I have trust and faith in these people that they are guiding me to perform the
Yeah.
best I can in the ring. I don't question it, and then I just go to work. So that's how.
Did you ever fail with your trust there?
Did I ever fight with my coach?
No. Yeah. No. Fail with the trust in people around you.
I searched Josh out. I searched for someone I didn't always have that feeling. But when I turned pro, I wanted to have that feeling with whoever was going to be my coach. Before I could proceed, I had to find that.
Yeah.
And so I sort of bounced across the country. I trained a bit in Calgary, and of course I came from Vancouver Island. And being on the national team, I had experience training with different coaches. And Josh Canty also coached Margaret Sidoroff, who was an undefeated champion as a professional. And she was phenomenal. And so I admired her, and I observed that. And I felt like I had some mentors in the past. And this one mentor of mine, Joey Delcetti, said to me, if you want to be the best, you have to train with the best. So what I was seeking out is, who is the best?
Yeah.
And Margaret ended up coaching the national team, of all things. So everything sort of plays out,
Yeah.
If you believe in yourself and you just keep focused and keep working, it does. The universe will open up for you. It'll provide for you what you need.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to me. As long as you're observing and you're in the moment, right?
Yeah.
So I saw that she had a boxing club. She was coaching the national team. And so when it came down to hard truths and making a decision, what do you want to do? I was like, I want to train with Josh Canty and Margaret Sidoroff in Windsor, Ontario. Okay, go.
Yeah.
Let go. Let's do it. And that's what I did. And so, I was searching for who I could trust, who I could believe in, and those were the people that came to me when I was feeling enlightened.
That's a good point. Yeah. Did you ever had an injury which you slowed you down, or
in the school of hard knocks, especially for this champion, you learn the hard way, and pain is a good educator.
Yeah.
And I didn't always listen. I was stubborn. I had an ego, and I was told not to cross train. Well, I played soccer.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And then I went into flag football, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I love field sports. However, I was, like I said, on the national team, becoming quite successful in boxing, and I was advised not to cross train. And I didn't listen. I thought, well, what's the big deal? I'm getting cardio training here.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
So I went, and I love it. So I went, played football, and, you know, I always believe in no mercy. So if you can beat somebody 60-5, beat them 60-5. And I was a rusher, and and we were up by a whole lot, and I still was giving 110% effort, and I rushed in the quarterback, and I zigged when I should have zagged, twisted on my knee, and blew my ACL. And so that injury happened in football.
Yes.
Injuries in boxing, I always say, I don't know, 55 fights, never had a concussion. But I don't know how close to the truth that is. Never had my nose broke.
Yeah.
But in boxing, I suffered injuries, but they were like surface injuries to me, other than, you know, some damage to my elbows that I feel now. But like they were bruises. They weren't snapped ligaments and, you know, everything else. Most of the injuries I sustained, like I said, were bruises. And I mean, nothing hurts more than losing in boxing. It's like the most devastating thing.
Yeah, the worst injury.
Oh, the injury to your spirit, and to keep going after that. I've seen so many people be destroyed by a loss, and not because it hurt them physically. It hurt them so badly mentally they couldn't go on. Yeah, and that's
what I would like to ask, because were you always mentally strong to get out of injuries or losses, or did you learn that over the time to like get more mature with that and how to deal with it properly? And
I'm going to gift my grandmother with the reason why I was mentally strong, because she believed in our bloodline. She believed in you're a Garside, you're the toughest, you're the, you know, and I believed her when she said that. And she gave me this I cannot be beat mentality. Yeah. And even though I was hurt, if I was beaten, you know, I did lose sometimes. I think, you know, until like the universe will give you the answers, like depending on what you want to listen to. People would say, yeah, you know, they would observe that in my spirit. Like, you know, keep working at it. You've got what it takes. Keep going. And I would listen to that. Yeah. So you can listen to what you want to listen to. I would listen to whatever would feed my spirit and believing in myself. That's what I would listen to. Yeah. And that's only makes sense. If you are heading into fight, the battle of your life, and you're willing to put your life on the line, you've got to take in anything that's going to help you and disregard anything that isn't, because that you have to. Yeah. I mean, there's no other way about it. Yeah. But there were times when I went in thinking, deep down, I don't think I'm going to win this fight. And I don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Did I lose because I didn't fully believe that I was going to win? Or was it already in motion that I wasn't going to win? Was I just smart enough to know that I didn't have what I needed yet to win that fight?
A question comes up. Would you say that in boxing, maybe athletes are mentally stronger than in other sports because you risk more of yourself? Like, let's say in boxing, I actually have a one-on-one fight who I've kind of like can get injured pretty easily. I can get injured in other sports like soccer as well. Yeah. But you don't have the threat, maybe.
Or if you go off the field, there's a whole team that's going to take responsibility for this.
So
it's all on you.
Well, I don't know. I never thought about it, but would you agree to that? Like maybe it supports your mental strength more?
I compare sometimes boxing to tennis because it's another sport that's a one-on-one game between you and your opponent. If you listen to some of these tennis players talk about what's going on, they're like, well, you know what? I noticed he threw the ball up 3 times before, and if he threw it up this many times, then he would do this, but then he would do that. And so you're so like deeply involved with the other person. Yeah. Kind of like you said with dancing as well, you're observing how they move because you have to react. And I read Andre Agassi's autobiography, and he talked about a lot of things and how he was successful, and a bit of that focus and drive, even though he hated tennis, he says. But my father was my number one fan, and he pushed me as an athlete all the time. But the difference between his story and my story is I loved boxing, and I wasn't going to let my father interfere with that. So early on, we had a falling out, and he, you know, everything I've done, he's supported me. But I saw it more like he congested me, and he took the fun out of it for me because
Yeah.
he made it competitive, and I was just, and it smothered me. And it took coming around and learning that he was actually only supporting me, and it took going out on my own and not having him there to support me before I really recognized that he had my best interests at heart, and I needed him and everything that he had done for me.
Yeah.
And I was able to embrace his support in my boxing career. So again, something I needed to do to move forward and be successful. So it does take that learning, and I guarantee you, going back to your question, I improved more with every loss that I had than I ever did with any win.
Yeah.
I
always try to sell that, like, as a soccer coach to young people. It's
as long as you pay attention.
It's tough, yeah, but it's like especially for a lot of young kids, like they don't know how to live with the loss, or like it's the end of the world. And I always try to like give them a positive experience of that, because it's so necessary. Mm-hmm. Don't do it on purpose, of course, but you always learn more of a loss than of a win.
There's I think Muhammad Ali, a picture of Muhammad Ali. It's like a meme, and underneath it says something like it's not how many times you go down, it's how many times you get up, or like whether you stay down or you get up and keep going. Yeah. Because then you take that lesson with you. And there were so many times, if I were to reflect back, that I was challenged, that I refused to give up, that I just, and I was told, no, that can never happen. Yeah. And I refused to listen. Who
told you the
and that's in your
mind. The girl inside? Yeah.
It's the girl inside.
Yeah.
And there were times also where I had a conniption fit once, and I lost it on my coach, saying, why do you tell me I'm good? Why do you say I can do this? I can't do this. I stink. I'm terrible. And I whipped my boxing gloves at him, and I was crying and screaming because I was struggling. And the struggle is real sometimes. But then you just pick that up and keep going. Yeah. And it's the people that believe in me too. Yeah. I think I've always, and this is my words, I've said, is believe in yourself and the rest will follow. Because if you present yourself as someone who believes in themselves,
it is easier for people to believe in you if you believe in yourself.
It's contagious. Yeah. They see it.
Yeah, but you also need sometimes people believe
in you to lift you up. Yeah, so it's like it's just circular. It's a thing. It's a cycle. It's like you got to feed on that. Yeah. And feed on that positive energy. Yeah. And and take your losses and run with them. What can you do with them? You can learn from them more than anything. Yeah, I agree with you there.
I mean, I'm from Germany, born and raised in Germany. You have a special connection to Germany.
Yes, I do.
We will go there soon. It happened in Stuttgart.
It did. It was my dream come true.
What happened in Stuttgart?
And I said thank you to the people of Germany for helping make my dream come true. And you know what? The people of Germany secretly liked me more and believed in me more, I think, than Ina Menzer. I'm going to say that now. They didn't admit it at the time. Yeah. And they were nervous and scared because I went to a public workout with her. And I could see the eyes. They were looking at each other going, I think maybe Ina's in trouble. But there's another great fighter, Regina Hamlich, who was well loved by the people of Germany because she had great charisma and just was a wonderful gal. Yeah. And I'm not saying anything bad about Ina, but after she retired, I think that people were hoping that they would find that in Ina. And Ina was a great fighter as well, absolutely talented and beautiful. But I came in.
So what was the event?
With this great spirit and passion and everything that I told you that I've worked hard to do and become. And they weren't stupid. They saw this in me. And they were like, uh-oh. Ina might be in trouble. But Ina, has to believe in herself too. And this is all happening at the pre-workout. This is before the fight even took place.
But it was the World Championship in Stuttgart?
And she put up 3 world titles. And it's kind of a magical story how I got there. And it really stems from exactly what you said. So I took 3 losses. I took some tough fights. I took 3 losses, and then I came back. I fought in Sarajevo, Bosnia. And it was a devastating loss because I didn't feel like I should have lost. I was the champion. I came there and I felt I was a little bit swooned. They gave me flowers and made me feel good.
Yeah.
And then in the fight, they ripped me off.
Yeah.
And I was heartbroken because the whole country was cheering. And I thought, how can you cheer for this? This is robbery. This is like terrible. This is not good. And some people saw that, but I was lonely in the dressing room and I was shedding a tear because I felt, heartbroken. And I swear to God, I felt my fairy godmother come down and tap me on the head. And as I said, I wish I could be hometown girl. Because just feeling how everybody cheered for her and elevated her to win the title, I didn't stand a chance because she was hometown girl. It also gave me what I needed to know what I needed to do to win when I was given the opportunity to fight in Germany.
Yeah.
How am I going to win against the hometown girl in Germany?
Yeah.
I know what it takes because that heartbreak that I experienced in Sarajevo, like you talked about. So anyway, these losses, they teach us incredible things, and we have to take those and work with it. So, or you can give up before the miracle happens.
And then you never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to give up. So anyway, after that heartbreak, I ended up having a fellow from right here in the Cowichan Valley take a look at it, and he thought, he said to me, there's no way you could have ever won that fight. Didn't matter what happened. And he was from, not from Bosnia, Serbia. Mm-hmm. And there's some political debate between the two countries. And I don't know if that's what inspired him. But anyway, he wanted, with all his spirit, to make it happen for me to have a fight here in Duncan.
Yeah.
And it's like God or the universe works through people. When I sat there and wished that I had been hometown girl, and this fairy godmother comes and taps me on the head, and somehow it inspired Wally. Like, we're all connected this way. Yeah. And Wally's like, I'm going to make it happen for this girl. Yeah. And he did. He wrote all the stones in place, and I fought for a world title. The world title I fought for against Lindsay Garbott ended up being what fired up the people of Germany, because Boxrec then decided to rank me number one because I defeated this girl who was all supposed to be the be-all, end-all, and I stopped her, knocked her out in the second round. So I had to get there, right? Yes, I had to get there and do what I needed to do. The people of Germany saw that I was ranked number one. Ina Menzer's people said, excuse me, we're undefeated. How is she number one?
Yeah.
We're number one. And because they're proud people, and I love that about the people in Germany. And so
we always want to be the best.
Yes, I love it. And so I said, so Boxrec said, well, you know what? If you want to be number one, fight Jeannine Garside then. And then, of course we'll fight Jeannine Garside. And that's how it all happened. And that's how I would love it to happen. It's not about the money or anything. It's about pride. It's about fighting to be number one. That's what it should be about. Yeah. So it was great. And it was that, it was all juggernauted by that loss in Sarajevo, which also gave me what I needed in my heart and my spirit to go into Germany. What's it going to take to beat Ina Menzer in her backyard?
Is it, how big is the difference, you would say, like having a fight at home or abroad?
It's a huge advantage,
it is.
I think, to be the hometown girl.
Just from the support, or what was the...
Previous to that, I didn't have a promoter here. I didn't have anything going on, so I had to be a road warrior. I didn't have the opportunity at that time. So I learned being a road warrior and the difference. Okay, let me explain to you the difference. I also fought in Korea. And I would land a beautiful combination. You could hear a pin drop in the room. And she would respond with a jab that wasn't even didn't have any weight behind it, didn't snap my head back, nothing. And the crowd would start cheering and go wild. To try and win under those conditions is pretty tough. Yeah. Especially in boxing, because you got the people behind you backing you up. But also I like being the underdog. As I said earlier, I don't mind if the expectations aren't there for me.
You can take that energy on you as well.
Yes,
right?
it can also be a motivator.
Yeah.
So it just depends on your perspective, and you got to look at things and how it's going to work for you, right?
Yeah. You wear a necklace, and you have I think you have is it your nickname? Jeannine? Heartless Garside.
In Germany, Herzlos.
Herzlos.
Yeah.
Die Herzlose.
Yes.
No heart. I don't believe that, but it's
right. It's not true.
Maybe in the ring.
It's not true, really. A lot of people despise that name because they said, Jeannine, you got such a big heart. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I says, and my coach Margaret, she said, yeah, but you could put her on. If her own mother was standing in front of her in the boxing ring, she don't care. She's no mercy. She's gonna destroy her, and it's true. So in the ring, yes, heartless. But the reason the name developed,
where's the coming from? The name
is that, and why it stuck is really, I don't know how vibrant of a story it is, but it's a good story. We were fighting in Laughlin in Las Vegas, and it was a great fight against Valencia. I ended up stopping her, and we were enjoying ourselves the next day by the poolside, and it was early in my career, and I wanted to have a good name. And I do love my name that was given to me right here in the Cowichan Valley. I probably would have been more successful with it, but the rhyming, I was like, I don't know. So they called me Jeannine the Machine here. Nice. And that's good too. That's really good. But at the time, I thought, oh no, it's my amateur name, and it's like a little too corny. I don't know. So we're trying to search for something else, my coach and I. And we had a few things in mind, and we're down at poolside, and we're visiting with these people. And they're telling stories. We're all telling stories. And this one lady, she was really fun. And we told them we were looking for a name. And she's like, oh, if you want to be feared, if you want to be ruthless and feared, and you're the toughest, you've got to be heartless. She said, that's the name of my fantasy football team, she said. And I laughed. I goes, yeah, but you know what? I like that, Josh. Heartless. Jeannine, Heartless Garside. I like it. And I said, I don't care what my dad thinks. Yeah. And so Josh had gone after that fight and made me this necklace. And
that's sweet.
And I said, well, it's written in gold now. It's got to happen. Jeannine, Heartless Garside. So we had a lot of fun with that name. And that's how it came about. Yeah. And I think there's another fighter actually that's using this name now. So maybe it's not so strange, or right. I don't know. But for me, people didn't like it because, yes, I do have a big heart, a huge heart.
I mean, people, you can see it in different ways. Like, I think if you see it from the...
But honestly, and just like...
athletic point.
I actually bit a kid's ear in sparring. No, in his chest. And that's how I learned where it came from Mike Tyson. Because he was so elusive. He kept moving away. I couldn't get my combinations off. And he was very quick. He'd hit me a whole bunch of times and then gone. And I'm a power puncher. I need to wake you up with a big shot. That's my go-to, right? Mm-hmm. But I couldn't get it off on him because he just was so elusive. So I'm just pressuring him. I've got him pinned against the ropes a little bit. Yeah. And my mouth guard slides off, and I think, you know what I'll do? I'll give him a big old chomp, and that'll stop him in his tracks for a second long enough for me to cold clock him. This is my game plan in my head. And I bite him.
For a millisecond.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's do that.
I bite him because another person told me, if you're not cheating, you're not trying hard enough. Yeah. So anyway, and I'm trying to do it all in a concealed manner. Like my mouth guard slips off, I give a little chomp, and I'm going to give him this was sparring. This was not a fight. And I stopped myself, like, Jeannine, what are you doing? And then some people are like, what is going on? But this fellow told me he did the same thing after that. So he gained he was a young kid in the gym at the time, and he gained some insight from that. But it's a funny, interesting story. So I get it, what was going through Mike Tyson's mind, because he was frustrated by the headbutts, he says, and maybe that's what was in his mind. But he was also being beaten. He didn't really have anything else he could do about it. You know. Anyway, going back to
I was about to
Germany.
What was the special, like you said, like winning there, like you said the dream come true. What was the big dream actually?
Okay, so for me, to really be, there's so many different belts, right?
Yeah.
There's the WBC, WIBF. I mean, she had 3 of them, and she'd had them for a long time. But most importantly, the WBC, the green and gold, to me stands out as, if you're the WBC champion, you are on top of the world. And that was my goal and my dream. When I was in Bosnia,
like in your real dream, or like in your dream of your career?
My dream of my career. And when I was in Bosnia, the representative for the WBC was there, and I told him that was what I wanted, that to fight Ina Menzer, that I wanted the WBC. And his words, "They will never fight you." That was what he said.
And
do you think I believe that?
Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, exactly. By giving me that opportunity, I mean, I was ever grateful. So they put all 3 of those belts on the line. They were very confident. And I had, they say luck is when opportunity and preparation meet. And I had the luck going into that fight. And it was like my ultimate dream come true. Yeah. And they treated me with such respect when I was there. Yeah. They treated me like a champion even before I fought. Yeah. And I had an amazing time. It was like one of the highlights of my life, my experience there and fighting for that title in Stuttgart. And like I said, we came to the 7th round. Like, I can talk about right into the fight or leading up to the fight. There were so many unique things that happened. If I were to start the pre-workout, and Ina Menzer saying, yeah, she can skip rope, but that doesn't mean she can fight. And I'm thinking, yeah, I can skip rope and fight. Don't worry. Yeah. And the people of Germany are worried for you, and I can see it in their eyes. Yeah. And secretly, the driver who was driving me said that, and like a little bit, the people, like I fell in love with Germany, and I think a little bit they were falling in love with me. If I could have stayed there and trained after the fight, I would have loved to. Yeah. I just was having a great experience while I was there. And the driver was kind of telling me secretly, I think that people are worried. Like, this is coming from him, not just from my perception. He had told me, but I don't say I said that. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so, anyway, at the press conference, I had shown up right off the plane. They drove me to the press conference. I never got to go to the hotel and freshen up or anything. And there's Ina, dressed to the nines, like a princess, dolled up from head to toe. And I'm walking in with no makeup, hair not done. I just got off a 12-hour flight, and we're having this press conference. So I was pissed off. Yeah. And you don't want to piss me off. Yeah. So we had that.
But you took it as your advantage.
But yeah, the right. Gentleman from Boxrec was there, and he had piped up and said, how do you think you're going to win? Do you think you're going to get ripped off? Like, there's a few fighters in the past who had fought Ina from Canada or from the United States looking to win that WBC and weren't able to achieve it and felt they'd been ripped off. I watched the fight. I don't know if they did enough. Because I know what it takes to win when she's the champion and you're challenging and it's in her backyard. Yes, it's going to take a little bit more, you know. And Boxrec, they're saying, how do you think you're going to win in Germany? And here's the seed I planted. And also something I experienced is, like, in Canada, you're here now in Canada, you know, we expect things to be fair. We try to fight for just. We try to fight for things to be fair. So on a political level, that's where I took it a little bit. And I almost challenged the German people. I says, I'm from a country where we expect things to be fair. In Bosnia, when I fought, it wasn't fair. You know what I mean? And my heart was broken, you know? And I will always expect things to be fair and expect to be treated fairly. Yeah. It's kind of what I said. Along those lines, I don't know what I said exactly. Yeah. But in presentation, it was like a challenge to the German people to be fair in a way. You know what I mean? I don't know if it was effective or not, but that's kind of what I said. And it was the truth, because that's just how I am.
Yeah.
And that's how I expected to be treated. And in Canada, if there's a bad decision, if we brought Ina Menza here and she clearly defeated me and still they gave the decision to me, I believe that people would boo.
Yeah.
We don't want to take anything that way. We'd rather see a just and fair decision. And there is sometimes some close fights, but I know and I believe you have to really win to beat the champion in their own backyard. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
That's not a secret.
Yeah. You need some extra points.
You do.
Yeah.
And I knew that from my own experience.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is the press conference. Then going into the fight in the 7th round, we knew what we had to do. And I was way ahead in my mind, which I also was in Bosnia, but it doesn't matter, right? Yeah. So Josh looks me in the eye, do not give her anything. Yeah. And I know he means it. And I believe it this time, that I cannot afford to give her anything at any point in this fight. And I refuse to give her anything at any point in the fight. And in the 10th round, we were both completely exhausted. The air conditioning had failed in the Stuttgart arena. It was 30 degrees in there. Okay, it was like over 100 degrees. It was so hot, and we were sweating like mad and exhausted. And she was doing, the only thing she had left to do is hang on for dear life. And I was exhausted, and I wanted to rest, but I knew that I couldn't give her anything. Yeah. So I struggled away from her, and I gave her, like, I was at one ding, 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 and then she grabbed on, and I wrestled away, boom, 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 and sat her down. She went down. Now, the referee called it a slip. Didn't call it a knockdown, but it was fine, because I still knew in my mind it was enough to win the round, because I had to do something to clearly win each and every round, and I knew that. So the scorecards are out, and the fight was scored 94-96, which gives me one round advantage. So that was how much it meant in that 10th round to win that round. Yeah. It meant everything, or it would have been a draw. Yeah. And I had to dig from the very depths of my soul to have the energy to pull that off. Yeah. And if I didn't believe didn't believe that's what it was going to take to win that fight.
Is there, in those situations when you like have to dig so deep to get some extra energy, is there an image in your head? Is there what's in front of you?
I would say it's just a driving force, a driving force. You must tap into every ounce of everything you've got to make this happen, or you will lose. I think losing is the painful educate of the driving force, because to me, losing is like dying. Yeah. It cannot happen. Yeah. So, and it's everything I've trained for, this is my dream. Like, this is everything. It means everything to me. So it's all of that. And it's not really an image. It's more like a feeling. And so down she goes. The decision is out, 94-96. I don't even know what they're saying because I can't speak German. I can't hear it well. But I'm just like, is that for me? They're like, yeah, it's for you. Oh, thank God. And then I win. And it's the most glorious moment of my life. And Josh is carrying me around the ring and all those things and everything. They're putting the belts on me. It's the greatest feeling. I can't even describe it. And I'm stepping off the ring. I'm heading out of the ring, and a German interviewer has a microphone, and he's pointing it at me. And what do you think he's asking me?
Like, how do you
feel?
like,
is this a trick question? I'm supposed to be asking the questions. He asked me, do you think we're fair?
Oh, lovely.
Can you believe it?
Lovely.
Yeah. Do you think we're fair? And I said, well, 94-96. I did win the fight. Yeah, you're fair. Fair enough for me. And that's kind of the whole story.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. So it was a
very
magical
considerate
experience.
of the journalist, or like the
journalist.
Journalist,
Yeah. And so
Is that like, I mean, I feel like that's the game of your career, right?
It really is. That was the last fight I ever
Oh,
had.
that was
And
the last fight?
I did have a contract with Ina and with her promoter. Universum, it was the name of the company the promotions that she was with, who gave me the opportunity. I knew this was a loss for Ina that she would never recover from. She was devastated. Her nose was broken, but so was her spirit. And I know that because I'm a fighter and I know what happens. And I knew she wouldn't want to fight me again. And one of the fights was a rematch.
Yeah.
Plus 2 other fights. And it was a great contract for good money. I was really excited about it. 8 months had passed, and they weren't interested in fulfilling the contract. I didn't know any legalities, what I had to stand on. I never really fought for money or those kinds of things. For me, it was that type of experience. And I felt like, honestly, I didn't know if I would be able to, if it would get any better than that.
Yeah.
You know, I just didn't know if it would. And what I wanted to pursue at that point was a family.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to have another child. And I wasn't sure once I had another child if I'd be able to recover or if I'd be able to put the focus, the mental capacity, the obsession towards the sport that was necessary for me to perform the way that I did.
Yeah.
And so I made a decision to move on and to have a family because I achieved the WBC. The obsession had lifted. Yeah. And so I was okay with that in my spirit. Yeah. It was like, okay, you can let go now. But I still believe I have another fight left in me. Of course.
Oh, yeah. I can see that in your eyes every day I see you.
Yeah, I know. It's true.
Were you always able to, like, to make was it, I mean, I don't know how popular female boxing was during your time. I think it was on the edge to grow a lot.
It was.
Right?
And
were you always able to make a living from that?
We didn't. There was no $1 Million Baby. People, the movie came out during my career, and oh, you're the next $1 Million baby. I'm like, hey, nobody's making $1 million. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, dream on. Like, I think Ina made a substantial amount more money than I did, but like I said, I was just. For me, the experience was priceless, and I had a purpose, and that was what mattered. It's hard as an athlete, I think any athlete, to have a purpose afterwards, you know, like, or for any purpose that would fulfill your, like, that would feel like that. It's just like such a high. Yeah. But I was satisfied, so that was good, and it's something that can never be taken away from me.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. So, how do you fill those spots in your life now where you
well, it's important for me to be involved with boxing some way, somehow, and it's true in other things that they say, if you want to keep it, you got to give it away. So, you know, I try to be involved at the Border City Boxing Club in Windsor. Now, there's not a whole lot here, so as you know, I've been trying to just train people and do a little bit here, but we'll see how it goes. But you got to be giving it back some way or another in the sport, I think. Yeah. And then maybe you can live vicariously through the other athletes, but not every athlete has what it takes to be a coach, because as a coach, you're completely selfless. Like, the coaches I've had didn't think about their pride, didn't think about what it meant to them or the time they had to put in for me. They didn't ask for anything. They just were happy to see me succeed, and that was their only focus. And I had to make that transition mentally as well, where that is my only focus, and I'm not competitive, or I don't have set my ego and my pride aside and just be all about the other athlete. And so maybe that's not within me, maybe it is, but just to be able to give the sport of boxing to other people kind of helps fill my spirit, because I will always need to have boxing in my life, one way or another, you know? Yeah. And so I do that, and I relive the experience with an interview like this, which is nice. Keeps it alive. Keeps it alive.
Keeps it alive, things coming up again.
But then also, as things develop, women's boxing is now in the Olympics.
Yeah,
and
since
so
when?
It's kind of taking a dive, though, because I'm not sure what the decisions are going to be moving forward in France for boxing as a whole. which is devastating. Then we took all this political nonsense with transgender athletes. I mean, it's a very difficult topic, difficult thing that we have to deal with as athletes, as women in the sport of boxing, and it's unfortunate because it's like it's a stain, really, and I don't like it, but I don't have an opinion right now one way or another, because if you asked me and I were to tell you, I didn't care who it was, I was going to beat you. I didn't have any mercy, and I didn't see that as an advantage. I fought some very strong women, and but so I didn't want to make any excuses, but then I haven't been in that position, so what do I know? But I would hate to see it destroy women being able to compete in the Olympics, because I always wanted that, and see that is
it's also unfair, because for the male part it doesn't really is a issue, right? So it shouldn't be for the women as well.
So where do we find that? How do we make it fair? This is a difficult thing. So but I'm very happy to see that women's boxing has made it to the Olympics. We've had a lot of difficulties and struggles being taken seriously. I never at the time seen myself as a pioneer. I was just like grateful that I could do it, because I wanted to do it and I loved it so much. So that I was able to do that in my life, it was the opportunity was there for me. I'm ever grateful.
You took it.
Yeah, and I hope it's there in the future for women to come, and I hope that I can continue to inspire women's boxing to exist. I feel like it hasn't been promoted correctly. So if we compare between MMA and boxing, and of course boxing is still very huge in other countries. It's died off a little bit in North America, boxing as a whole. Yeah. But I feel like the UFC has properly represented women in the sport. Boxing has kind of struggled to present women, and I don't feel like we've been presented properly in boxing, which is unfortunate, because you'll see that women were actually some of the most well-known fighters in MMA. So like we have the potential to do well and be there. Yeah. Not very often were we the main event or the only, like sometimes for some reason it gets set out that we're going to have an all-female boxing show, and I don't feel that's the way to go. Yeah. Like main event, maybe we're not there yet, but undercard, just like it was with Christy Martin and Diedrich, that's kind of where we shine, and I'm okay with that. Yeah. Behind every great man is an even greater woman.
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah, so always. Yeah. Who said that?
I thought that worked well, and I don't know why we didn't stay with that. And it was Don King that was doing that. Yeah. So I can't say he's a terrible promoter, but I wish we would keep on that track, and that women's boxing is promoted properly. That the women are, that they come up with some class, some style, some great outfits, and put on an excellent show, because we do in the ring already put on a great show. Almost every one of my fights, they said that was the greatest fight of the night, because we have such a competitive spirit. It's natural for women to be competitive, and so we just give our hearts out in the ring, and that's what you did see most recently in the fight with Amanda Serrano and the Irish Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano. Great fight. And they put their hearts out. They battled, I mean, not all women's fights are like that. Not all men's fights are the greatest fights out there. But as an undercard, it's great to see women's boxing being promoted and properly, which is what in Europe they do. Yeah. When I was there, I was like famous. I was in the papers. I was recognized when I was in Paris, and so it still lives on there. And I wish I could have stayed and fought there, but it just wasn't my story. So and that's okay too.
I think like meeting you and having this conversation now, I know you for a couple of years now, but now I already know you. But even before I got to know you, because I didn't know what you actually did. Yes. like you are a very inspiring person, and now knowing what you did even more, because like I now see how people encounter you and how you talk with people, and they have a very, like, you are someone for a lot of people, right? So like don't underestimate that. I think, and
it's a blessing. It's a real blessing.
Keep that up. Like just the boxing class I joined with you was for me very inspiring, in the way of like, it's a totally different way to approach me as a athlete, or like doing
a coach too.
Yeah, a coach as well. Yeah. So even the small things always have an impact, and I wouldn't be opening for me the book of boxing if I wouldn't have met you, because boxing was never on my radar.
Right on.
And I have a totally new interest for that now in a different way. Because,
yes.
Yeah. I mean, I had to go to your class,
even as podcasting or just seeing in the community, I think it's making a bit of a comeback right now, because the pendulum has sort of swung to, we've really taken out a lot of competition. We've really sort of and tried to coddle feelings.
Yeah.
But some of these big feelings are necessary.
Yeah, we still have emotions.
Exactly.
We have to get out of us somehow, and
Yes.
needs a release.
It does, and sport is a great way. Yeah, in a fair way, and sport is a great way to do that.
Yeah.
And some people are saying, "Geez, we should put boxing back in school." So here I am at the school. It's like red hot. People don't want to touch it. Don't know what to do with it. But I think it's never really going away. So we just got to see how,
So
how can it fit in again?
I never touched any face in the whole boxing class with you.
Yeah.
Never touched anyone.
Exactly. No one got
just
hurt.
touched.
That was
just
the first thing. Like,
busy with
did
myself.
anyone get hurt? No, nobody got hurt. But it's hard for them too, because they've got to be careful. There's so many liability issues this year, or all this in this genre, this generation, and so but like I said, boxing isn't going anywhere. People love it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of magic in it. There's a lot of emotion in it. There's a lot of passion in it. And so, and I can, as you said, I mean, you just reiterated it for me, that just by being me, doing me, I've been able to be an inspiration through boxing to you. So that is such an amazing gift. Yeah. And like, thank you so much for being receptive.
Oh, thank you for being open to share all that, and like, be yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the easiest thing to do. It should be.
It should be. Sometimes hard, but thank you so much for being here and answering my questions. And I think it's a good start for 2025. And,
absolutely.
You do keep doing your thing.
I will. Yeah. That's all I know.
Yeah.
And you too.
Thanks.
I appreciate you taking the time, and like I said, to bring me here and to be interested in what I'm doing and inspired by it even, and that's even more awesome. So
you're more than welcome.
In that way, you in turn have certainly inspired me.
There you go. That's how we inspire each other.
That's right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Okay,
thanks.
Jan. Cheers.